Claire.
We're going to start off with coverage of those controversial comments by Mitt Romney in a secretly filmed video.
Yes, and it all started back in May at a private fundraiser, and Romney didn't know that he was being filmed, and he said that basically half of the Americans were freeloaders, and that sent shockwaves across the world. And USA Today actually published a piece written by Mitt Romney himself where he justifies his comments, and he says, "I will deliver recovery, not dependency. I quote, 47 million Americans are on feed stamps. Our nation needs help from the government, but it's a different kind of help that they need than what President Obama wants to give them."
That doesn't seem to be helping stamp out the controversy, though, does it? What are the other papers saying?
Well, let's take a look at the New York Times, which says that Romney is waging a class warfare, that it's pitting jealousy amongst the have-nots against the haves. I quote, "The shame is not on the poor people, but on the top 1% who can donate tens of millions of dollars to those politicians who want to maintain this dire situation."
And there's a similar tone in the British press, namely in The Independent.
Yes, let's take a look at a cartoon published in The Independent where you can see Mitt Romney putting his own foot in his mouth, and he's tied into knots, and you can see there he's slipping on loads of banana skins.
He's even got conservative papers criticising his comments, so that's not too good. All right, now Romney has often said that a business background is essential to a successful presidency. The LA Times, though, determined it seems to prove him wrong.
Yes, the LA Times has published a survey that was actually published back in 2009, but basically it identified US's top presidents, including Lincoln and Roosevelt and Reagan. And the paper basically says that none of them had any business background. However, those who did include George Bush Sr. and Jr. And look at what happened there, says the LA Times. The first Bush presidency ended after just one term, and the second one ended up in financial collapse.
Going to move on now to the latest coverage of that wave of violence because of an anti-Islam film.
Yes, and the British newspaper The Guardian actually says that it's surprising that there aren't more protests within the Middle East. The video is just a trigger for a deep popular anger against the US, says the paper, against imperial domination in countries like Afghanistan, for example, or Pakistan, against the 11 years of war on terror. And according to recent polls, well, 2/3 of people in the Middle East and in North Africa actually say that they distrust the United States.
Now, in Germany, there's a small far-right group that actually wants that controversial film to be screened in public, and that, of course, might spark more protests.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at a piece in the Der Spiegel. Authorities in Germany and Muslim groups wonder if they shouldn't ban this public screening and therefore actually scrap freedom of expression, which is, you know, what people have been arguing about this film, is that, you know, we should be able to broadcast whatever for freedom of expression. Angela Merkel actually suggested in a press conference on Monday that a ban would be justified if public security was at risk.
And we're going to end off with a look at a cartoon in the International Herald Tribune.
Yes, and it sums up quite well the situation, and you can see on the right there, some Muslims scanding death to the United States. Protesters opposite them, you can see Westerners calling for freedom of speech. And right in the middle, you've got a man who says, well, can't we just all agree that this video is just really bad?
All right, thank you very much, Aurel, for taking us through the international newspapers. You're watching live from Paris. Coming up in business, rising from the ashes after being declared bankrupt.